Howdy. I invite everyone to please take a seat. Good morning. My name is Scott Bauer. I'm the Director of Talent Management for Human Resources and Organizational Effectiveness. I wanted to welcome you to our Staff Development Day today. It's a great day. We've got some great speakers, great lineup. I'm really excited that everyone is here. Thank you for taking time out of your work day. I know that there's a lot of things going on right now and everybody's really busy. But I think you're going to find some really good nuggets of information that'll come through from our speakers. A couple of housekeeping things I want to let you know. We do have hospitality area just directly outside of the door. There's some light refreshments and some drinks if you need it. Bathrooms are straight out back in the bathroom in the back. Please silence your cell phones if you haven't already done that. And we will have breaks in between each of the speakers. So if you do find yourself needing a break, there are breaks about every 45 minutes or so. I also want to welcome our online listeners and viewers. Welcome to you. So today we have a great lineup of speakers, and I want to bring up Dr. Barbara Abercrombie, and she is going to have a few words for us, and we'll get started.
Thank you so much, Scott, and howdy. Good morning. It was such a great event yesterday afternoon. Thank you all for coming. I have the great honor and privilege this morning of introducing our 25th president of Texas A&M, President Michael K. Young. Michael came to us as president 2 years ago? Three years ago. I came 2 years ago. So he's came to us from Harvard Law School way back in the day where he graduated with his law degree, and before that, the University of Utah and the University of Washington. He brings to us at Texas A&M over the last 3 years a special affinity for staff, and that has been seen in every decision he has made about what is best for our staff here on this campus. We are honored today to have him speak to us a little bit about his vision and about his thoughts for how we move forward as Texas A&M, and he will also leave some time at the end for a few minutes of questions and answers. So without further ado, President Young.
Howdy. Barbara, I appreciate that introduction. I was introduced, 6-8 months ago by one of our deans, who will remain nameless. It was a College of Education, but no. So in any event, she asked if I'd speak to her advisory group, and I said I'd be happy to do that. And so I came in just a few minutes early, and they must have had 30 or 40 members of their advisory group there and some faculty, and they'd obviously been engaged in a deep conversation. And she said, by way of introduction, she said, we have had a really interesting, exciting, engaging, terrific discussion this morning. Now for something entirely different. So now for something entirely different. I am really pleased to have an opportunity to spend just a few minutes with you today. Barbara's right. I have had the opportunity to be in higher education for a long time, and over the course of that time, the centrality of staff has become clearer and clearer and clearer to me. The work that gets done at the university can't get done without everybody who engages all the different parts of it. And I mentioned that a little bit yesterday, but I want you to know how sincere and real that is. I one time thought maybe higher education is a little like a movie, and that we have the talent, and they have to have their special trailer, and you got to have flowers in there and a little kind of special water, and can't look them in the eye and so forth. And they are, compared to what really needs to be done for a movie to be successful, they are minor. The major people are the ones who are listed at the end, who really provide all the logistical support to make sure that movie gets done. And if the movie's successful or not, it is only marginally related to the actors. And I think that's true of higher education as well. So genuinely appreciate what everybody does here at this university. And I suppose Barbara asked if I'd talk just a little bit about about leadership and about how one, as you get in positions in your various jobs where there are people who are working with you and engaged with you, and that you may have some opportunity to supervise and direct a little bit, what thoughts do we have about that? And I will start with just a couple of observations. The main observation is it depends significantly on you and your personality. You will get a lot of advice about leadership, but a lot of that advice essentially devolves into either this is how I did it, or this is what I did and this is the mistake I made. This is not a field in which there is as much systematic, kind of thoughtful research where you can say these are immutable principles that work for everybody. Everybody needs to do this or do that. There are fields in which that's true. You don't want your doctor freelancing and saying, you know, I think I feel like doing this to you today. Leadership, on the other hand, really is very personal. So the first point I make is you don't have to do it like anybody else. That in a powerful way, what you do that encourages your employees, that gets the best out of them, that advances your part of the university or wherever you are, really is to some large degree a question of how you best do that. And you will find some things work, some things don't. And in that experimental space, find what it is, as long as you are thinking intentionally about it. There are, I think, a few overriding principles, though, that one can kind of articulate against which you develop yourself as a leader. And I thought I'd just talk about those for a few minutes today, and then be happy to talk about anything else that you'd like to. I know some of the questions may be difficult. In the event you make me break out in a sweat, I do have my towel. Quite excited about that. The first principle, it seems to me, that has always been important as I look out at those who really do move their part of an organization ahead is some capacity to develop a collaborative vision. And that vision usually has kind of two parts to it. One part is, what is the overall vision of what you're trying to do? I'm struck by the story, which always seems to me very powerful, of in the Middle Ages, somebody is building a cathedral, and a person talks to three bricklayers who are building this great cathedral, and these cathedrals, as you know, took hundreds and hundreds of years to complete. And they ask one, and he says, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm putting mortar on this brick. And they ask the second one, and he says, well, I'm putting this brick here and building this wall. And they ask the third one, and he says, I'm building a cathedral to my God. It's that third one that we want to help people have some understanding in any situation we're in. And fundamentally, our mission is and our vision is clear. We are educating young people, helping them develop their greatest capacity to go out and to serve, and to themselves be great leaders, but themselves also make a difference in the world, developing that skills, unleashing their talent. I mean, that's in essence, and that's fundamentally what we do. And I hear the power you bring to that enterprise again and again and again. I hear students who, I mean, I did mention this yesterday, students who will tell me they may happily tell me about a professor who was really, really helpful. But they also will tell me about some staff person who listened to their situation, helped them work through it so that they could continue their education, whether it was in financial aid, whether it was in counseling, whether it was in the logistics of getting a residence hall or getting a meal plan. Those things that, from the full range of services that we provide here and things we do to help position our students, those things are educational. Those things are fundamentally essential to whether these kids can process through and can complete their education. And so the first thing I think, from my perspective, that's very helpful is help people develop a vision that you're not just putting mortar on a brick. You are building a cathedral. And everybody at this university is doing that. And one of the reasons my passion for staff is so deep and profound is that I know fundamentally everybody is building a cathedral. And sometimes that entails putting mortar on the brick. Sometimes it entails building the wall. Sometimes it entails putting the steeple up. But it is all absolutely essential to the success of the enterprise. But sometimes you also have to reduce that vision a little bit in a functional way. Because if the only vision is we're helping teach students, well, then why aren't you in the classroom as opposed to in your office? But the answer is that helping people understand their part of the enterprise and how important that is, and getting that vision of what it means to do that and do that at the highest level, so that if it's in housing, how do you get students in as seamless a way as possible into their housing? How do we run as efficiently and effectively as possible to reduce the financial burden on them? How do we ensure that the students don't have problems that derail them from studying? You don't want them thinking about the plumbing, you want them thinking about chemistry. And that is really essential. So it's both that larger vision, but also the vision of what one is doing particularly. And a good leader really does help people develop that vision of what they're doing. They're not simply fixing the plumbing. They are really helping create an environment in which people can focus on the things that they really need to focus on in this regard. That requires a lot of collaboration, a lot of listening, I think. I think a second principle that seems to me important, and this I can't decide whether this stems from my inherent laziness or whether this is actually a principle, but it works, whichever it is. And that is working to really empower your people. And what does that mean? Well, it means a number of things. One is to really empower your people to do their jobs. The vision is essential, but then you need to help them develop a plan for success in their work. And this is absolutely critical, some capacity to measure whether you're succeeding or not. It's easy to create great plans. It's easy to say, gee, I think this is really going to work really well. But once you start to actually take data, once you actually start to measure results, you find out whether it really did make a difference. It's surprising how many things seem to make a difference, sound very logical to make a difference, and then you do them and you realize nothing really has fundamentally changed. And so measuring your results becomes very, very important. But you can't measure results unless you know what you really want to do and what you want to accomplish. And so developing a plan with your people, and then pushing things down to them as much as possible so that they have a chance to experiment. I spent a lot of my life in Japan. In Japan, they have developed a number of techniques for very efficient manufacturing. Interestingly, most of their plans actually came from designs and professors in the United States. And in fact, Professor Deming is one of the most famous people in Japan, not very well known in the United States, but extremely well known in Japan because he came up with a whole series of different ways of really efficiently manufacturing and efficiently leading institutions, all of which we ignored and the Japanese picked up. But one of them that I really find interesting, it often goes under the acronym of LEAN, and I can't remember what LEAN stands for. I'm sure Barbara knows what it is, but it stands for something or other. But what it really is, it's a very simple principle. It really says, okay, I'm going to actually talk to the people. It's a crazy idea. It's a controversial idea, but I'm going to talk to the people actually doing the work and say, what happens when you're transferring, you get this on your desk to do, and then you pass it off to somebody else and to get it done. What's happening with that you're getting that makes it easier or harder for you to process and deal with that? And when you pass it off to somebody else, what kind of shape does it need to be in for them to actually be able to handle it efficiently and effectively themselves? And it's surprising how often the supervisors don't have a clue. But if you get the people on the ground asking those series of questions and mapping out what that is, it can really have quite remarkable results. When I was at the University of Washington, I discovered that in our research support services, we had some real backups of processing grants, both the submission of the grants and then the closing out of the grants, where you had to do all the accounting and submit to the granting organization your final bookkeeping to show you spent the money appropriately, and so nobody went to jail, and et cetera. And we had a backlog of 200 or 300 of these at any given time. So they took this process, sat down with the people in the office and said, why is this stuff stacking up on the desk? And some very simple things emerged. Things like somebody would say, well, I stack it on my desk and I just take, I take the thing from the top and I work on that. Well, as it turns out, if you take the thing from the top and the thing from the top takes 2 weeks to process, the stuff down here, which may take an hour to process, doesn't get done for 2 weeks. So everything gets sort of backed up. So they came up with some simple principles, which is 2 stacks. Controversial idea. One is stuff, okay, I'm going to spend part of the day on the stuff that really takes 2 weeks, but I'm going to process through this stuff I can get through in an hour. And some simple things like that, but the people on the ground understood that. And the supervisors did not really understand that as well. And certainly, I would have been clueless. I would have said, work harder, hire more people. What would I know? But they knew. And the result was we eventually got the backlog down to 2 a week. And it was because we listened, because we empowered the people at the lowest level to do it. We set metrics, but let them define what success, how they could succeed at those jobs. And it was amazing how effective that turned out to be. And everybody described themselves as not working less hard, but having far fewer emergencies, able to go home at time, every night. I mean, it was really quite remarkable the change it had on people as well. Now, if you do that, there's another important principle, and that is if you empower your people, they will make mistakes. And that's okay. That's okay. I mean, if the mistake rises to the level of criminality, that's not okay. But otherwise, that's okay. And you need to be prepared to take responsibility for those mistakes and say, yep, it happened. I empowered them, made a mistake, and the consequences of that are, let's try it next time in a different way so we don't make a mistake. But taking responsibility yourself as a leader for what goes on once you empower those people becomes very, very important. People need to have air cover. They need to know that they're going to go out and they're going to do a lot of things that are going to turn out well, and they're going to do some things that are going to turn out not so well. And that's okay. And that's absolutely okay. Silicon Valley has a mantra of fail often, fail fast. That if it doesn't work, you find out quickly that it doesn't work, but go ahead and experiment, go ahead and try different things. And if it doesn't work, if you're taking data, that becomes clear. It's not working, and you can make adjustments. Or if you see other things that you hadn't anticipated that causes, great, you can make adjustments. But take responsibility for that. Allow mistakes, give your people air cover for doing it if they are really intentional, if they are really trying, and you have worked collectively with them. The only thing I ask in my people is keep me informed. I'm going to give you all the air cover in the world, but don't surprise me by doing something that you might think be a little controversial and I don't know about. Because I can protect you, I can work with you, and I'm going to give you a lot of scope to do it, but don't surprise me. And that becomes important. But that has to run both ways. So transparency from your side to the people who work for you, to their side, also becomes very important. Know what expectations are. Let them know what you're being instructed to accomplish. Let them know what the nature of the demands are. Transparency has a remarkable effect in getting people aligned behind you. The one thing I've found again and again and again is how much smarter everybody else is than me. Take advantage of that. And then take shameless credit when it works well. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But take advantage of the fact that so many of the people you work with will have ideas that never would have thought would have thought. And that happens in part just because you have more people. You have more brains looking at the problem. It's the other reason I feel quite passionate about diversity in our workforce, because what I find over time is that if I have 10 people around a table who have exactly the same experience and background that I do, I'm likely, when we put a problem on the table, to get one answer. If I have 10 people around the table who have had different experience and different background and approach things differently, I may get 10 answers. And as that incredibly stupid advertisement says, 10 is greater than 1. It really does matter. You can take, but you have to have real transparency and real communication with the people that you work with in order to turn them loose and give them a chance to do it. When you do make mistakes, or when your people make mistakes, it's okay. Learn from them. There is a real power in learning. I spend a fair amount of time reading about failed university presidencies. Not that I don't intend to make my own mistakes, but I'm really hoping that I don't make somebody else's. And it helps, because you often see, it may not apply exactly the next time, but you will have learned some principles from it. And also learned from people's successes. One of the things I urge everybody at the university to do is look what others are doing around the country in your particular part of the university. Study that, look at that, see what's going on. You will learn things. Sometimes you'll learn ways to do things. Other times you'll learn things to never do in your life. When I started at the University of Utah, one of the things we wanted to do was to think about how did we take the technology and the great inventions and ideas and so forth that were occurring within the laboratories and get them out into the lives of real people. Ultimately, that's what professors really want to do with the research. It's not about simply publishing the next great peer-reviewed journal article. They want to make lives better. And if commercialization and transferring it to the technology to a company so it's commercially exploited is a way to do it, great. That's a terrific way to do it. That's good. But at the same time, it's not about making money. It's really about doing good. So we really wanted to ramp that up. We had not been particularly strong at the university. How do we do it? So I asked the people who I thought might figure out how to do it. They were as clueless as I was in the beginning. So we sent them around to about a dozen different universities. And the interesting thing was they came back with 1,000 ways, as Thomas Edison said, not to make the light bulb. They learned, everybody would tell them, well, we made this mistake and this didn't work. We tried this and this didn't work. So we avoided probably a decade's worth of mistakes. And one of the consequences is that they were able to start some things based on not replicating the mistakes of others. And by the time I left the University of Utah, I actually was spinning out more companies out of university technology than any other university in the world. And so it's helpful to learn from what others are doing. And sometimes you learn things that work, and sometimes you learn things that don't work, and both are okay. Both are powerful and okay. So that kind of study is good. Finally, well, I don't know if this is finally. I'll say a couple last things, and then we'll be happy to talk about anything else you'd like to. But don't hesitate to encourage your people to talk back to you. Now, not on email, because nobody seems to remain civil on email. Make sure it's face-to-face. But encourage that. I'll give you one of the stories I absolutely love. I had an extraordinary administrator at George Washington University when I was there. And he was he was a retired admiral. He had been in charge of the Judge Advocates General Corps in the Navy, and just a terrific administrator. And I learned from him a really important lesson about why he was so good. So he told me that he got his first command in Norfolk, Virginia, and it was a 2-story building, and this is oddly enough relevant to this story. 2-story building, about 60 attorneys in it, and a number of support staff. So he gets in there, and the first thing he does is he tears off, he moves into the captain's office, tears off a piece of paper, and on the back of it he writes, "Captain's head." That's Navy speak for restroom. And he goes and he pastes it on the men's door of the men's restroom. And so all day long, military people being what they are, they walk up to go to the restroom, they look, I say, oh, that's the captain's head, and they go upstairs to the restroom. Okay. End of the day, he gets all his senior people in and say, how'd they do today? And of course, in the military way, a way that we'd like to encourage, by the way, they say to him, spectacular. You should be a 4-star admiral. You're the best leader we've ever had, so forth. And he says, really, I didn't do anything wrong today. He said, absolutely not. You were perfect. This goes on for a little while, and he keeps encouraging, nothing, I didn't do anything. Finally, one crusty old sailor says to him, well, it's a little inconvenient that you put captain's head there. If that's what you want to do, okay. But it meant everybody had to go upstairs, kind of reduces efficiency, and frankly, it's a little annoying. And my friend said, thank you. That's what I need. I need people prepared to tell me when I'm doing something really stupid. Now, he may have carried it to an extreme. Every night at about 6 o'clock, he'd walk into my office, literally put his feet up on my desk and say, Mike, you asked me to do such and such. He says, it's not the stupidest thing I've ever heard. He said, it's in the top 3, but not the stupidest. So we're not going to do that. But here's I understand what you want to accomplish, and here's how we're going to try and do it. And I cannot tell you how valuable that was. And the number of mistakes I avoided, occasions in which I would come streaming into his office and say, this professor has done this incredibly stupid thing. I want you to blow up his car in the parking lot. I want you to kill his dog. I want you to salt the earth around his house. And I would come in the next morning, I'd say, you didn't do any of that, did you? He said, no, of course not. He said, I knew cobber heads would prevail eventually. But you need people like that. And they won't do it if you don't encourage it. They won't come to you, and they won't do it if you don't encourage it. And the final thing I would say is listen to the people you're serving as well. It's surprising how we often structure things for our convenience as opposed to the convenience of, for lack of a better term, might be called the customers. It's one of the things, we have hired a wonderful vice president for information technology, Dee Childs, whom you may have interacted with. And I told Dee, I said, Dee, I have a very simple principle in IT, which is I need IT people who are creating IT systems for the convenience of the user, not the ease of the IT professional. And that has to be the guiding principle for everything. And that's true, I think, in everything we do, which is ask the people, whether you do it through surveys, whether you just do it anecdotally, but ask the people that you're serving, how's it going? How are we doing? What could we do better? What could we do better to help you? Or get your people to ask, because it's surprising how often simple things that make your life and their lives easier are quite feasible and quite possible to do. And then let me conclude with the last, which is we have wonderful, wonderful people here at this university. Make sure that they know you appreciate their efforts, but also make sure that they have a chance to take advantage of the things we offer that reflect our appreciation and that give growth opportunities to our employees. I'm a little distressed when I hear reports of managers and supervisors who, for example, make it very difficult. We've said you can take 3 half-hour breaks during the week and go, you can go exercise, you can go jog, you can go read a book, you can go outside your building and plant a garden, and do whatever really kind of helps you get centered and feel good and so forth. And enough reports of supervisors who are saying, well, yes, you can do that, but you have to do 5 minutes here and 4 minutes there and 3 minutes there. That really isn't necessary. We have our people are terrific, and if they are given their head, you're kind of measuring outcomes, and you are really empowering them. Make sure they have an opportunity to take advantage of the things that we try to make available and that you try to make available that really make their lives better and make them better able to accomplish their jobs over time. We consider that important, and I think you will find it actually has real results for you as well. So with that, let me conclude with thanks. The fact that you're here, that you're listening, is an incredibly strong testament to your commitment to this institution, your commitment to the people that you work with, and your commitment to the people that we serve here at this university. And I appreciate that very much, and I recognize that, and I acknowledge that. And I want you to know we really do appreciate it. The very fact that you're sitting here, the very fact that those of you who are watching reflects something very powerful, and we really are very grateful for that. So with that, I would be happy to take a question or two, and I have my towel ready if you make me sweat.
Thank you, President Young. We have about 7 or 8 minutes for some questions, since we do have folks that are looking on TV. I would ask you, we have 2 people that have microphones. If you have a question, please just raise your hand, step out, and go to one of the microphones so that everyone can hear the question.
And sometimes the first question's hard, so if you want to start with the second one, then we'll come back to the first. I've exhausted you.
I'll break the ice. I just want to say thank you very much for everything that you do for us, and we really appreciate it. I've worked for the university years ago, and I noticed a difference when I came back, and I know that it has to do with you, and I just want to say thank you very much. It's noticed, and I know everyone in this room really appreciates it, so thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, but I will also tell you it is a deep and abiding passion on the part of all the senior leadership of the university, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, she stole my thunder, because I really didn't have a question. I just wanted to say, in particular, I appreciate that 30 minutes 3 times a day. I don't really take advantage of it myself, but I know, right? I take about, 15, 20 minutes here and there to go walk around the building every now and then, and I feel like it really helps me clear my head and then refocus. And I notice a lot more people. I work out at the GSC, and, we have some sidewalks around there, and I notice a lot more people out walking. Some of them are like me. They'd rather walk by themselves because they're thinking about stuff. And then groups of people that are walking and just, laughing and talking and kind of taking that few minutes to refocus themselves. So I really appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks. It's a very small thing, I think if people do take advantage of it, it also reflects the respect we have for our people. We're not worried that the work isn't going to get done. We know it will, but people will do better. I'm always told that you can get more done in 11 months a year than you can in 12. I mean, that sort of thing, and I think there's a little of that here as well.
Question up here front.
I appreciate your statement to supervisors about allowing their people the opportunity to learn and to grow and to take these advantage of these opportunities. I am still distressed. One of the first things I learned when I came back to work here 11 years ago was, yeah, but the managers don't let them do this. We could do this, but their supervisor isn't going to let them go. And I still hear those things. But they're not, they're random people. They're not anything. They're not somebody that I can affect directly or do or mentor or guide. So I guess my question is, in general, how do we build up our supervisors so that they understand that just being locked to answer a phone 8 hours a day and you can't leave to do anything else because you have to sit in that chair, how do we do that as an institution?
Yeah, no, that is a great question. That's something that Barbara and I have actually talked a lot about. I have been distressed over the number of reports I get like that. And we are actually working on identifying ways in which to help train our supervisors or move our supervisors on. Those are both possibilities in this regard. but work on exactly that issue. I don't know how many conversations we've had about it. I don't know that we have made the kind of progress we'd like to make on that, because like you say, it's frequently anecdotal, it's sometimes a little hard to identify. So what we're working on now is looking at a broad-scale supervision or training of supervisors, which I think is a bit more of an endemic problem at other levels too at this university. And we're working, that I think is probably our primary, now that Workday's in place, sort of. I think that's going to be our primary focus is how do we better train supervisors or put the right supervisors in the right place. And so you've really identified what I think goes to very much the heart of what we've been, and I don't think we've made the kind of progress we need to make on that or like to have made on that. But I think over the next number of months, that is going to be our number one focus. Okay, we have 2 minutes.
One more question over here.
If I'd shorten the answers, this would be quicker.
I agree with you. Does that also include faculty? Instead of staff that are advisors or supervisors to the other staff, because we've had some concerns as staff that, faculty are so overwhelmed with their duties of the research and teaching classes and other logistical things when they're managing an entire department, but they tend to lose their understanding of the importance of their staff.
Yes, that's something we also are working on. You have to do that a little more indirectly at certain levels. But in working with our deans, one of the things we've been quite clear about is the centrality and importance of staff. So when they are picking department chairs, people to run various programs, that is a highly relevant part of the job. And I think we've actually changed out a couple in the last year for reasons deeply related to that. It's harder, to be honest. I remember once when I was dean, somebody asked, how many professors work for you? And I paused for a minute and I said, if you ever find a professor who thinks, he or she works for anybody, just let me know. I suppose I could have said what the Pope said. The Pope was asked at one point, how many people work in the Vatican? And he says, about half of them. So, but it is a little more challenging in that regard. But it is an area in which more through, we've been getting Dr. Abercrombie and Dr. Fierke kind of together to talk about that part of the, administrative jobs. And it is harder in a specific laboratory. I think we can do some work and make some progress. We're making modest progress in the departmental level and the programmatic level, but once you get down, you also have that challenge at the quite granular level at the, at the lab that a professor may run. So it's a little harder nut to crack, but there's, a lot of conversation going on about it, and I hope, I think there we're likely to see sort of more incremental progress than a dramatic transformation. But on the administrative side, we're looking for more dramatic transformations. But we're working on the other too. So thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you for what you do for this university, and thank you for being here today. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, President Young. Great words. I hope everybody found a little nugget in there that you can take back and use in your department. So right now, everyone should have a raffle ticket. So we're going to have our first drawing for 3.
We'll do the first 3.
First 3. Okay.
So first ticket.
So take out your ticket, the blue tickets that you received coming in. The first one is for the Phillips Events Center at Briarcrest. It's a round of golf for 4, a 1-hour golf simulator, and Quarry Bar and Grill, $35 gift card. Do you want me to pick?
Yes.
Wow, okay. And the number is 609547. Any golfers? Yay, all right, come on up. Congratulations. Yeah. Trust but verify. All right, our second one is for a $50 MasterCard debit card given to us by the Brazos Valley Schools Credit Union. We need like some music or something. All right, I'm seeing a theme here, so I think I can just read the last three numbers. 628. 628. All right. And I know everyone is going to want this next one. It's a 1-month membership to the Tower Point Gold's Gym. There you go. Okay. So, here, hold that. So, did you verify? Trust and verify? No?
I think I trust.
Trust. Okay.
Mary's more trusting than you are, Scott.
Gosh. Okay, the lucky one who gets to go work out. 650. All right. We have an enthusiastic exerciser. Okay, those are the three that we have for now. We are going to take about a 15-minute break, and then we'll come back and reconvene in here right at 10 o'clock, come in a little bit early, and we'll have our first speaker after President Young. Thank you.